to Just Onside. It's been a very long time, always. Great to see you. The background tells me you're still in the hotel, so I presume you've not found accommodation as yet. Explain what's going on.
No, I've saved it as a background. It's just a background. I'm living in my new place. I just wanted to. No, yeah, absolutely. I'm still at the hotel. Soon to move out, no doubt. I'm going to be obviously coming back to the UK soon, aren't I? In a couple of weeks. And then hopefully after a wedding at the weekend, should be coming back to Dubai. Hopefully this time with the family. So it should be nice. It's been a long 6 months. I came here 16th of January, so it's going to be 6 months in a few days' time, which is quite the honestly, time has flown. So yeah, indeed, looking forward to coming back to the UK. What's the weather like over there, Yub?
It's been miserable. It's been about 13, 14 degrees. Would you believe it? I mean, I had a turtleneck on today, and it's the middle of July, virtually the middle of July. So this is England. This is what you're missing. So I presume where you are is considerably warmer. So what's the temperature there in Dubai?
Yeah, warm doesn't cut it. I think we've started to hit 42, 43. I think there's
Oh
still
my
another,
God.
I think there's still another 10 degrees to come as soon as we start to hit August. It doesn't subside until October, I believe, at least. No, it's very hot. I'm sure we'll come on to it, but I was taking a walk from where I watched the game last night, and honestly, like even in the early hours, which is when the game finished, it's still fairly warm and very humid, I must say. So yeah, very hot, even from the morning till the very late hours.
So what's it? I mean, this is always something that I've been to hot countries, but always for holidays. So I suppose you're always relaxed. So what is it like being in a super hot country? Now, I presume obviously where you work is air conditioning, but you're not always in buildings. You're always, well, I presume you're walking to work and coming back and
I am
maybe to the.
always in buildings. Am I at the hotel at work? Those are the only two.
Is that what it is?
Those are the only two buildings that I'm residing in currently. I mean, my walk to work. I mean, you can check it on Google Maps, but the office is literally opposite the hotel, so I'm exposed to the heat for a very short period of time. About 45 seconds in the morning, maybe a minute in the morning, and then it's purely air conditioning from there on in. And in the evening, when I leave the office, again, it's another minute. So I mean, I don't experience the heat much, maybe a little bit on the weekends. But no, I think the only difference is, Ayub, I would say, is even when people like yourself who've come to Dubai and you've stayed in lavish hotels on the Palm, and it's still, I mean, you're near the sea, aren't you? So it's like there's still some semblance of perhaps a little bit of, how can I put it? I mean, it's incredibly warm, but there's always that little bit of, I won't say breeze, but at least in other countries, let's say when you go to a Turkey on the beach or what have you, there's always that. I mean, when you're on the coast, it's always a little bit different. When you're inland, it's just a lot of humidity, sticky heat. As you know, I recently went to India as well, and that was no different. It's just incredibly hot. I think that's the only way to put it. I mean, even a little walk and you'll be sweating.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's very different. I mean, 50 degrees is no joke.
Yeah, compared to the 13 degrees we just had today. So
Hey, don't knock it.
it's
Don't knock it.
right. Okay, so it has been a long time, but obviously a lot's happened since we last talked. I suppose there's only one really subject that we need to talk about, and that's the European Championship. England somehow are in the final, miraculously, I would say. But what I want to talk about is obviously England, how they've played, but also on Southgate, because it's a bone of contention for a lot of people. A lot of people are saying England are in the final not because of Southgate, it's just that because we've got excellent players. So your thoughts on England's progress and maybe touch upon Southgate as well. Do you think he's a coach that is underappreciated? He's not valued. People not giving him the credit he deserves. Go on. There's a lot to pick out. So go on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm going to let you maybe take first dibs on Southgate and then I'll respond. But just on England, first and foremost, I mean, yeah, unbelievable game yesterday. In terms of the journey that England have been on, I think when they headed into the competition, there was a lot of optimism. And I think for most people that I listened to, there was a talk that France or England could well win this competition, or at least those were the two major heavyweights that were discussed. England have, for large parts of this tournament, not played well at all, and that can be I'm not saying we should use that as a something to justify to say, well, the result is all that matters. It's just an observation of fact. In the group, they were not a good. They didn't look like a very good team. They were very spotty, very sketchy, very conservative, in my opinion, with regards to their passing, their flow, their patterns of play. A lot of negative first touches, not being able to get through the pitch, through the thirds with any ease whatsoever. Very scratchy performance. And if you look at a lot of the games, not least when they were looking to get bounced in the last 16, it took some miraculous situations, let's say, for them to come through. And look, that's fine as well. That happens. Some of the greatest triumphs in sport have come when at some point in that journey, there's been some sort of moment to kind of take you back from the abyss, let's say, or right from the edge of elimination. So there's many a story like that in sport. It's what makes sport great, isn't it? But England have, I thought yesterday was their best game. I think most people would agree. Second half was scratchy, but I did think that Depay going off balanced the Dutch outfit a lot more. England were, I wouldn't say cutting through them, but they were definitely getting through the midfield in a lot more consistent way when they had Depay on the field. I just think they had one attacker too many or one luxury player too many for what is a semi-final of a tournament when two teams tend to kind of feel each other out. Although the game before that, the day before France-Spain, that was a pretty watchable game as well, to be fair, relatively open game. But yesterday, as soon as the pie went off, it turned into a very much a tight affair. You thought one mistake's going to settle this, or one moment of brilliance, and that's what we got at the end from Ollie Watkins. I think England, look, on the whole, they've not played well. But I think the one thing that they've done to some extent is put a high emphasis on team scoring or creating clear-cut opportunities. And when you do that in competitions, you know this better than anyone, it's very difficult. Although England did it yesterday, it's very difficult to come back from, let's say, a goal behind. Yes, Spain did it. Yes, Netherlands did it. So in some ways, I'm defeating my own point. But what England at least have put an emphasis on is not being opened up too early and then falling two behind or whatever it might be, or being out of the game before you're in the game, if I may say. So even yesterday, I think most people, when the Netherlands goal went in, I don't know what you thought. I thought, well, actually, England have started okay. So although it's only been a few minutes, I didn't think it was early. So I wasn't thinking, oh, this is it. This is having this kind of fatalistic attitude. So look, England haven't played well. The balance has been a little off. He's adjusted in the end and brought this kind of 3-4-3. Although in the second half yesterday he changed back to a 4-3-3 with kind of Bellingham on the left as opposed to Ford on the left and Ford in the middle. So there's been a lot of scratching around. Whether or not how much you attribute that to the manager's genius, I'll let you comment on that first. But England, look, they're a hard outfit to beat. I will say this: they've got athletes in the team, not least the centre backs, Rice, Bellingham, Ford, and even Saka, who puts an absolute shift in. I don't know if you obviously watched the game against Switzerland, but as that game kind of drifted towards, even at the very end, I think of extra time, he's just running back and forth, and I thought he was brilliant that game. But the point is, England have got athletes. They've got players who are a very good age, I would say, for the competition. Bellingham just coming off an amazing season. Foden coming off an amazing season. Declan Rice coming off an amazing season. Kane scored a bucket load at Bayern. Saka's had an amazing. So there's a lot of good things that have come together for the actual individuals, let's say, within the squad. So, and I think you're seeing some of that confidence flow through right now. Look, they're a hard outfit to beat. I think that's clear. I don't think they're the most exciting to watch. Although the first half yesterday, I did like the fact they were playing with a bit of intent. So look, it's no fluke that England are here. I do think they start the final as second favourites, although I still don't think there's a huge deal between them. Look, Spain have been amazing. I have them as slight favourites, but I wouldn't put any money on Spain winning the game simply because England have the tools to hurt them, and vice versa. So it's a difficult one to call. I don't think there's a gulf in class between the two teams. So look, amazing effort by England, back-to-back European Championship finals. A World Cup quarter-final sandwich in between that, World Cup semi-final before that. Southgate will be hoping to win this and probably ride off into the sunset as a manager who delivered England their first major trophy since '66. So incredible effort from England. One step to go. I'll give you maybe perhaps a little bit of the story of how I've been watching some of these games because it's been quite good fun actually. Although the game's now at 11 p.m, so that's been a bit of a challenge recently, but local time. But no, incredible effort from England, and yeah, one final step to go. We'll see if they can take it.
I mean, you say incredible effort, and it's been incredible, but I think more just they've not certainly played to their potential, and attribute that to Southgate. I'm a vehement critic of Southgate. Now, you have to give credit. He's got a great record. If you think about it in terms of what he's accomplished with England. Now, he's not won anything, but then in saying that, England have not won anything for over 50 years. But what he's at least accomplished, I mean, he's got to a European Championship final, got beat by Italy by a sort of barest of margin. Italy were the better side on the day, without a shadow of a doubt. This tournament's been just bizarre, really, really bizarre. I mean, he has an array of riches, but his incompetence, and I do think it's incompetence because really, if you have so much quality, it really should be an easy job to be a coach of players who are that good. Now, the hardest part may be to pick the strongest 11, but really that shouldn't matter. In a tournament, maybe you can mix it up a little bit. So I just think that we've got to the final not because of Southgate. It's just that there's quality in the side and an enormous amount of good fortune. The game against Slovakia, I mean, that is miracle. I mean, that game really told me that England will win the European Championship. Uh, uh, it was against Switzerland as well. Goal behind quite late on in the game, but there was enough time. Saka, wonderful equaliser. Penalties. England never do penalties, but did penalties. So everything that perhaps has gone against England in the past has gone in their favour with an enormous amount of luck. Yesterday, that was never a penalty. In a million years, that's never a penalty, but it's given. So it just looks as if the name is on the cup. And in a sense, in my opinion, England are the best squad. You can probably turn around and say that Spain have played the best football, but the best squad is certainly England. If they had a better coach, England would win this tournament at a canter and play the best football. For some reason, Southgate is, I don't know what his I mean, I've always said that he's a coach who is extremely fortunate to have landed this gig. He's extremely fortunate to have landed this gig at a time when England are absolutely blessed with world-class players. I mean, I look at the players in the England side, and it's like you've got Palmer on the bench, you've got Watkin on the bench, you've got Tony on the bench. Most of the squad that play for England are capable or are top four in the Premier League. So there's so much quality at his fingertips. And I think what he's doing his darndest to make England not qualify for the final or not get to the final. But the ability, the quality, a moment of magic, a bit of luck, somehow England have got to the final. England, in my opinion, are the favourites. Go on.
No, I'll let you finish your point. I mean, the only thing I would say is, look, I'm slightly leaning towards your side of things with Southgate, but I think there is a little bit of nuance, right? What do you say to those of you that say, well, he's cultivated? He's been there for what is it now, 4 competitions? So there's something there, isn't there, in terms of his ability to be grounded enough and to cultivate enough relationships and a dynamic within that group and bring certain players through and all the rest of it in a certain atmosphere and a platform that's giving them the opportunity to, I want to say thrive in games, because like I said, this performances at times have been sketchy, but at least have the ability to get to the latter stages of competitions. Now, doing that over a period of time, as they have done over the last 4 competitions, although quarterfinals of a World Cup, you'd say is probably standard for England, you would say, given their class of player and talent at their disposal. But there is something to be said, isn't there, about his ability to create a certain environment where players do feel comfortable and are being allowed to thrive to some extent, not consistently thrive, but still put together some moments. And my last point, just very quickly, just want to hear your point, is what do you say to the fact that he may well be, I say gambling. He can't be gambling on Bellingham scoring in the 94th minute with an overhead kick or whatever it might be off a long throw in and a flick on from Mark Gahey. But what I mean is there's something to be said, isn't there, about a manager perhaps that's thinking, well, look, if we keep things tight, we have match winners who can produce moments like a Saka, like a Bellingham, like a Kane, or like Watkins yesterday. And maybe he's playing within the margins, which is, let's not go out there being super open that we lose the game before we're in it. Equally, we're not going to go out there and batter the opposition. We're going to keep it within those, as you mentioned, channeling your inner Ian Smith, barest of margins, and, you know, keeping it to the point where a moment of brilliance from some of those amazing match winners will produce something for you in terms of turning that result around. There is something to be said within that, where some managers do employ that type of strategy and tactic, we just keep the game close. We've got match winners. I mean, I always thought Mourinho, to some extent, in that first stint at Chelsea, although they were an amazing defensive unit, there was some semblance of keep it tight, and we've got a Lampard or a Drogba or whoever that can, kind of kill the game for us. What do you say in terms of that type of managerial thinking?
I mean, I think certainly his mindset is not to lose the game first. I think that's his mindset. Now, I'd I'd say that that's not. It's certainly a strategy that some coaches will employ. Now, whether he should do it with an England squad blessed with such quality is questionable. But if that's a strategy, fine. But it's been luck. I think there's been enormous amounts of good fortune. Uh, you said about Bellingham scoring in the 94th minute, enormous amount of good fortune. Because really, in theory, a better. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I suppose Slovakia will be kicking themselves, thinking, right, maybe we could have counteracted that. We could have gone man to man. We could have been tighter. Because really, you cannot. Any coach in the world will never have a strategy where it says, right, okay, we'll keep it tight and we'll score. You don't legislate to score in the 94th minute, or you don't have a strategy to score in the 94th minute. So therefore, it really, you have to say it's good fortune. The incident yesterday, the penalty, that was never a penalty. Again, that gets them right back into the game. Now, I would sort of say that they were much the better side. So really, probably even without that, I would have still said they would have won the game if it's in normal time or injury time or extra time. It's just this team that Southgate has. It's not because of his tactics, because I think his tactics have been far too conservative. To me, it really would be a pleasure. I think a Bielsa managing this side, we would
Oh
see
Lord.
football. I had to get
I was
Leeds.
I was wondering. I did notice you had your
Yeah,
Leeds white on today. Well, okay.
yeah, but that's but that to me. But what I will do is I've always been one where I'm a results orientated type of guy. So therefore, it's the ends justify the means. Now, if he happens to win the tournament, and there's more likelihood of him winning this tournament than not, then I will doff my cap to Gareth Southgate, because he has accomplished something that's not been achieved in over 50 years in English football, and that's England winning a major tournament. So I think he's a manager who's blessed with enormous good fortune, A, in getting the job, and B, being at the right place at the right time. I can't. I mean, it's difficult for me to commend Southgate and his managerial credentials, because I think he's poor. He proved it when he was a manager at Middlesbrough. So he's done nothing with this England side, which makes me think otherwise. But I will give him credit. If England win the tournament, I will have to give him credit, because ultimately I have to be consistent with what I say. I always say it's about winning things.
Yeah, I think the one thing he has done, look, no one manager sometimes has all the different skill sets, right? I mean, look, if a manager had, there's always shortcomings in every manager, in every human being to that extent. I mean, look, do I think we have to be fair? I'm not a fatalist that thinks that every time we lose, it's the manager's fault. Every time we win, it's only because of the manager. Because you'd have to live and die by those two extremes if you're that much inclined to believe the manager has that much influence. There's a nuance. You watch the game and you can sense whether or not the manager has got his imprint on the football team. When you watched England early on in the competition, what I was thinking was, this is a safe brand of football. This is a very conservative. I look at first touches. I look at how much they shuffle it around the back without looking to progress through the thirds. There's a clear there was a clear lack of understanding from the players as to how to break teams down. That was clear. That was obvious. Now, for me, that is testament to the manager not giving either clear messages or not training with the players enough to transmit those type of positive messages to say, this is how we're going to break a team forward. I watch my team, although Arteta has much more time to work with Arsenal players, but I can see what my team's trying to do. It's very rare that I watch Arsenal and think they'll have no clue how to break this team down. So with that in mind, you have to be fair and say, look, early on, it looked like that. Now, yesterday, what I would say, though, is the first half, I thought clearly there's been some sort of switch to say, look, we're going to play this way, but we're going to play quick. There was Bellingham and Foden coming into pockets, and they were playing around Marlon, Simons, and Depay in a very kind of fluid way, even Gakpo early on. So they were playing through where you thought, to your point, even if they didn't get the penalty, you sensed if Depay was going to stay on the pitch and they had that one extra striker on the Dutch, that England would have found a way, because just they just looked a little bit more threatening. They looked a little bit more like they had impetus in their attacks. I will give him credit for, like I said, creating a group that clearly likes one another. There's no negative stories within the camp. I think that is managerial traits. I think that is managerial skill. I think that is important that we articulate that. He's clearly created a group of players that want to play for England, are not scared of playing for England, and want to play for one another and still feel comfortable to produce big moments. You know, they're not so much, although early on in the tournament, some of the rhetoric from the England players suggested otherwise, but they're not so much paralyzed by this idea of playing for England, for this big footballing nation, let's say. Look, I think he deserves credit in that. I would equally say there's sometimes where the tactics you think he's just unsure. He lets the game drift, for example, like you saw that against Switzerland, where it took that goal for us to concede 77th, 78th minute and suddenly three subs. Whereas a lot of, and it's not hindsight, I'm sure you were the same. I watched the game with a friend here. It was a case of, why is he letting the game drift? This happened against France in the World Cup Qatar 2022. He lets the game drift when he's a little unsure whether he should go get the result or whether or not he needs to make the change. He just thinks if it's a draw, it's in the balance. I'm okay. I'll just let it drift. And I think that's one aspect he's perhaps not fixed. You might argue yesterday he changed that, but I also think there were a number of games, and clearly Kane and Foden, it just made sense. We were all screaming for that Kane should start the game yesterday, but if needs be, he needs to get a quick hook, not so much kind of at the back end of the game. So I think the fact that Watkins got the best part of 18, 19, maybe minutes, maybe a little less, was okay. It was okay. I'm okay with that. So look, I think he does deserve some credit, but I think there are some shortcomings perhaps to his managerial forte, some of which the talent of the players has overcome. And look, we had a relatively decent draw, let's be very clear. And yesterday they beat an established footballing nation, although Switzerland are a very good team, I haven't said that, but the Dutch clearly are. But even yesterday, I was thinking whilst I was watching the game, Ayub, the Dutch were limited, weren't they? I mean, England, give them credit, they nullified them, but I still thought the Dutch were. They didn't strike me as a team, but I didn't think at any one time, they could score. Yeah, they could score. They looked through. Oh, okay. Gakpo looked lively on the left in the second half, but England, I thought, very much were the better team for the most part, even though the second half was scratchy. So I still think the better team won. I do think England are the better team than the Netherlands. An incredible goal, just very quickly on that, Ayub. I mean, just an amazing moment. It's why we love sports. England have been on the back end of maybe some rough finishes in some certain tournaments, famously Phil Neville when he made that foul. I remember, was it against Romania? I can't remember. But you remember all those famous games where it's just not quite gone right for us at the end. And for England to have a moment like that, a last-minute goal, I mean, tough on the Dutch, but I mean, just pandemonium, fans, substitutes. I mean, that's what you live for, isn't it? That's what sports all about. So incredible for Ollie Watkins, big proponent of Ollie Watkins, as you know. And yeah, England, this one final step, I'm really interested to see if they can take it. I mean, this is incredible.
I think they will. I think they will. I think you're right about Southgate. I think he's an affable character, and I think he's an intelligent man as well. So I think he's very much versed in creating an environment where obviously players get on. I think that's there's no question that he's very, very good at that. My concern has always been whether he deserves to be an England coach, because it's in a sense it should be the pinnacle or the ultimate. And England is not a minor. It's not a minnow in terms of footballing nation. So therefore, it should really be a coach who's got credentials worthy of that post. And I think he's very much an FA man, and I think he's a safe choice. And really, probably it's going to end up with him after 50 odd years winning a tournament for England. And yeah, I've got a feeling that if he wins, he will walk off into the sunset. He'll be knighted. It will be Sir Gareth, and rightly so, because he was at the helm when England won a tournament. And I'm quite confident. I think that, and I say it again, I think the best squad in the tournament is England. I think the best footballing team at this moment in time is Spain. But I look at the players that England have, and these are players that really you should be purring at. And my concern with Southgate always is that he's put the handbrakes on. Take the handbrake off. Let the players express themselves. Play on the front foot. I don't think there's a team that's capable of living with England if they're playing on the front foot. There's quality everywhere on the pitch. Spain have quality. Yes, they do. They have a child, 16-year-old. Now, really, he is a child. Ultimately, he's a great player, and he will be in the future a superstar. But he is 16 years old. Nico Williams on the other side is fantastic. I think he's good. But if you start looking at England players, you've got quality everywhere. And that's really what I would want Southgate to do, rather than say, well, look, we'll do this, we'll do that. Just say, right, just express yourself. At the end of the day, there's enough quality. These are good footballing players who've got footballing intelligence. So they know when the moments would be to defend. They know the moments to be on the front foot. So I hope, but I don't think he will. I think he will, in a sense, it's tried and tested that he's played a certain way. He's going to continue playing a certain way. But I would love it if he was brave and he said, right, we are going there to win the game rather than not lose the game, which seems to be always the philosophy of Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, I think, look, in finals, I mean, the last World Cup final was incredible, but even last final, the World Cup final between Argentina and France, Argentina were much the better team in the overall game, and then all of a sudden you get a penalty and all hell breaks loose. What I would say is, look, finals are for winning, aren't they? You want to play well, but finals are for winning. I will say that. But yesterday, whilst England were playing in the semi-final, maybe one game removed from the final, I remember thinking the first half when they were playing with a certain intensity, with a certain speed, with a certain intelligence, I thought, yeah, this is how it should be. Now, if we lose, so be it. But this is how a big team should play. It's why I always say big teams shouldn't be challenging for titles. You're not guaranteed to win it, but win or lose, you can live with the results. If you're playing a certain way and showing a certain personality on the pitch that you're not scared, you understand how to go about breaking a team down. And I thought England, for a large extent yesterday in the first half, did show that they knew how to go about trying to break this Dutch team down. So incredible efforts from them. Then the game stabilized a lot more once they had a better structure, once they brought Veerman on, the Dutch. But yeah, look, I think the finals are for winning. I think to some extent it'll be an open game in the sense that Spain, because of the way they also play, I think it'll just end up being not an open game, but I don't think it'll be your typically kind of dour affair that you might sometimes get in a final with both teams scared to lose because of the stakes. I think there will be some semblance of an openness just because I think the nature of the way Spain play, I think the normal transitions for England will be there. I just hope they can build attacks more fluently through the midfield, get it into the wingers, especially Saka. You know, I'm biased, but I still think if you can get him the ball in what I call in natural, organic ways, like they do at Arsenal, where they build through and give it to him in a spot where it's normally one against one, and he's imperious one against one. He always ends up with some sort of finished product. You saw him against Switzerland. Yesterday, he was up against arguably, some say, best left back. Ake is as solid as they get, and he struggled just because I don't think England still know how to go about getting him the ball into good spots. They either come too late or it's Walker sending it around the back and then they double up on him. I just can't wait for the game in the sense of it's England, it's a final. Just on a personal perspective, obviously being out here, I'll be hopefully linking up with a friend who's also here from the UK. We watched the last 16 of the quarters together because they were weekends, Sunday and Saturday respectively. The semi-final I watched on my own at a local cafe yesterday. It still made for a good atmosphere. And now that we've reached a Sunday 11 p.m. kickoff final with work the next day, we've agreed that we'll watch it together again in Dubai. So, no, it should be an amazing experience. Hopefully, England triumph because neither of us have seen that, have they? So it's like it should make for honestly, like it could well be their time. Who knows?
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it should be a crackerjack. I'm just surprised it's 8 o'clock on a Sunday evening for some strange reason. But I'm hoping that
count
there's.
Count your blessings.
Yeah. At least it's 8 o'clock here as well. But last time in the last European Championship, we had a house full of people, and it was just wonderful. It really was. I mean, it was a very celebratory. Didn't quite sort of go England's way, but I'm absolutely confident. I really am. I think you could question whether they've played well enough, but they've had enormous amounts of fortune. They've played, in my opinion, quite sort of mediocre sides, and it's not really a strong tournament. It seems as if this is the weakest sort of time of European football has ever been. But you can only play those teams in front of you. I think this is the toughest challenge, but I think it's the toughest challenge for Spain. They've played some good sides or sides that perhaps have had a certain reputation in European football, but certainly for Spain, this is an England squad and an England team that is going to be difficult to beat. I just hope there's an early goal, obviously England, but if there's an early goal, it just opens it up. What I don't want is a cagey, turgid affair. This is a showpiece event, but the stakes are so high, so probably it will be turgid. But really, I think the DNA of Spain is to play football. The DNA of England to perhaps not play football, or at least certainly under Southgate. But I hope it's a cracker. I predict a 3-1 England victory. What's yours?
England scoring 3 goals. Okay. Let's see. I mean, the one dynamic that I'm interested in is that I have a sense. We have a sense, right, of what team Southgate's going to pick. He's going to choose Kane. Kane's going to start. Let's not get it twisted. As for whatever Watkins achieved, well, I think it does by Watkins is that he's probably jumped Tony in terms of just the fact that he'll be on such a high that if this game's going in a certain direction, I could see Watkins being called upon perhaps before Tony, just because he'll be riding this amazing emotional kind of high. But Kane will stop for sure. The worry for me a little bit is Spain have had a game extra. Day extra to rest. And secondly, Southgate, we know, doesn't necessarily like to. He doesn't like to change things too much. So the fact that it's going to be a similar set of players, kind of going into the this final game. So that'll also, I'm just worried about tired legs and things like this. So look, let's see. I think the only difference he'll perhaps make is he may consider Shaw. He may well just go for the same team and play the whole 3-4-3 again. I must give a bit of a shout out to Kobe Mainu. I don't know if you remember, Ayub, but when he broke into the Manchester United team, I told you that there's a good chance that this kid may well be representing England at the European Championships. Now, I
remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
I also said the same about
one of the few things you got right.
One of the few things, because I also said Levi Colwill might be in the Euros as well, but that didn't quite go so well. But no, I remember saying that, like, just because there was this gap, wasn't there, in the central midfield, and it wasn't obvious who was going to fill it. I sensed that if he was to have a decent season for United, which he did, and I swear he really looks the part in an England shirt.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
If the form is there, I think him and Rice for the next 3 or 4 years seems to be pretty much set. Genuinely believe that, unless some other player comes to the fore. It's just I like his ability to receive in certain spots. I like his ability to take ownership in certain situations. He doesn't always play safe. Yesterday he was picking up the ball and then dragging it, driving forward. Made the wrong decision once or twice, but that's going to come with a bit of experience. He's still a teenager, let's not forget. We just think of him as very much older just because Spain have a kid or a child playing on the right wing. So look, I just think he's been incredible. England have, for the most part, been relatively solid. That's what they put a premium on. I just think it's going to be an incredible game. I, like you, do tip England. I think they'll just come through. I think it's just me being sentimental because I think it's somehow meant to be. We've had too many disappointments, but I do genuinely think that England, if they can not ride the storm so much, but I thought France were much superior up until that amazing equaliser. Genuinely, like, France looked like they were going to score on the transition a number of times. What I will say is that Spain do take risks. It's a good risk. I mean, it works for them. They play wonderful football, but they take risks in the sense of it's a slightly open style. They're not necessarily like, hey, break us down. It's a very open style. And I think England will have some transitional moments to take advantage of, with having a midfield of Saka, Bukayo, Bellingham, and Foden to boot. You want your big players to make the impression in terms of big finals, and I think that's ultimately what it's still going to come down to. Can England have a couple of big moments with some of their big players taking that? So let's see. But I, like you, are just going to tip England, but I think I'm slightly hot overhead with this one.
Well, it's going to be a crackerjack. I mean, even if it's not a great game, it's just going to be a crackerjack of an atmosphere of an evening. So I'm certainly looking forward to it. I know OSU are. I'm sure the viewers are as well. So pop your comments down what you think will be the score. But it's something to look forward to. It's mouth-watering. All right, so that's a wrap. We'll hook up again probably next week, post-mortem. Hopefully it's some good stuff that we're talking about. So OS, it's absolutely great to see you. But likewise, viewers, smash a like, share, and all that kind of good stuff. All right. So until the next time, look after yourself. If you're in England, stay warm. If you're in Dubai, stay cool. All right. Ta-ta for now.